Yeah, g'day YouTubers, Tinker O'Toole here with another video. Today we're going to talk about setting your grinding wheel up so that the centre of the grinding wheel is aligned with the bar groove or guide rails as you want to call them. To do this procedure, what you would normally do is that you would set this up to 0 and you would set the head up to 90 degrees. So 90 degrees being vertical, and the whole idea is that you would bring this down and this cap screw should be right in the middle of this straight edge, which it is. That's as good as what it's ever going to get. Now, the other thing is I'm going to show you another version, and I won't just touch the camera. I want to take that out and I want to put another straight edge in there, bring this down, and you can clearly see that that is in a different position. Now, why is that? That's interesting, isn't it? One shows you in the middle and the other shows you in a different spot. Clearly this happens, and this is very difficult for people to set up, because on the first type straight edge that I had, it was offset. So it was something that I made because it's offset like that. Now, the reason that we had so much difference between the other one is because when you pull this cam in, it clamps in the middle only. And that's exactly where I had this part sitting in. So this particular part was sitting in there, clamping on that part. When I had the other square was sitting in this portion here. This portion here doesn't move. It's hard up against here. So when you pull the cam around, it closes the gap, but it doesn't close the gap here. It closes it slightly up there. If you look at the difference, you'll notice that there's a 1 millimeter approximately gap in the middle, maybe 0.9 there. So when you adjust this screw from a brand new wheel's 145 millimeters, we roughly move this over about 1 millimeters, have a 1 millimeter gap. So having a 1 millimeter gap will solve your problem, and it will keep the wheel in the middle. If the wheel is in the middle, what that means is that the left and the right will be ground evenly. So if you are grinding as the wheel wears down, you'll find out that it will tend to grind more to the left side, because I can demonstrate this. I'll demonstrate something for you so that you understand. When I put a square in, we'll put the square back in again, and I'll just sort of pull it in this position here. Now, have a look at the bolt. It is way, way over to the left side, because the actual grinding head is above the horizontal position. When I pull this down into the horizontal position, you'll notice that the bolt is approximately in the middle. So as we move up, the bolt goes out of being in the center, come back in the horizontal position, it stays in the middle. When we go below the horizontal position, it'll start to move back towards the left, the same as what you see here. As this wheel wears down, it moves away from the horizontal position, and you'll find out that the head comes down lower, so that the angle being tilted down slightly off horizontal means that the cap screw here is going to be always on the left-hand side. If it's on the left-hand side, it's going to be given like 1 degree downward tilt if the wheel was approximately 130 mil diameter. Normal wheel is 145 millimeters diameter. So I don't expect anyone to go out and try and make one of these, because I've done all the mass and everything else. and I found out that you needed to have approximately a 1 mil gap. You can't really have much more than a 1 mil gap, because if you put the chain on, you'll find out that if you increase that to more than 1 millimeter, you'll have trouble putting the chain through there. This is a 3/8 standard chain, so it has a 1.6 millimeter drive link. So therefore, if we say that we've got approximately 1 mil gap, and that wheel's 145 millimeters, when the wheel reduces to around 130, 125 millimeters, this gap will reduce to 0. You will have no gap there. So if the wheel reduced to 135 millimeters, we would have a 0.5 millimeter gap here. So the videos that you see using a square or a straight edge are mainly shown on older model grinders. The user manual really doesn't go into any detail. It tells you that this is a compensating screw. I don't know if they use that word, but that's what it really is. It's used to compensate the offset that you get in this as the wheel reduces. So on a brand new wheel, you push it out to 1 millimeter. As the wheel wears down, proportionally, you reduce the gap here as the wheel reduces in size. It's that simple, people. Unfortunately, the manual just does not go into detail, so don't worry about putting your straight edge here, because it won't do any good, because your straight edge will sit. If you look at the actual guide rail, as I said before, the guide rail is almost touching there. It's just a fraction of a millimeter there, whereas you can see the huge gap there. So putting a straight edge there, as it wears down, won't do anything, because that gap won't change, whereas this gap is the one that can change, and this is the adjustable gap. So as you can see, when you close that, the guide rail closes at that point. It flexes a little bit here, but hardly anything. And that's why I made the L shape offset. I made the offset straight edge, because when I put it in here, the actual cam nips at that point. So when we look at that, the cam, this goes exactly in front of the cam, right in front of the bolt, nips in that point there. This has got clearance here. As you can see, there's clearance there underneath. And that's why that is the best way to check that. So I'm saving you a lot of problems. All as you have to do is just remember that if you've got a brand new one of these clones and the wheel's brand new, do yourself a favor, put a feeler gauge in here, get approximately a 1 mil gap, even if it's 0.95 or 0.9. It's going to be roughly 1 millimeter right in the middle. And as the wheel wears down, you slowly release this screw so this gap reduces. And as I said, by the time this wheel wears down to approximately 125 millimeters, you will have 0 gap here. Thanks for watching. Give us a thumbs up. Bye for now.